All right, ready to unlock some serious energy. Today we're diving deep into the connection between sleep and those tiny powerhouses in our cells, the mitochondria.
Yeah, we're going to explore how those mitochondria are basically the key to feeling energized and, well, functioning properly.
Exactly. And our guide for this deep dive is sleep, the key to mitochondrial health and energy. We'll unpack all the insights so you can put them to work in your own life.
It's going to be fascinating. You'll be surprised just how much sleep impacts these tiny energy factories.
So let's break it down. First things first, mitochondria.
Yeah.
Can you give us a quick refresher on what they are and why they're so important?
Oh, absolutely. Think of mitochondria as like microscopic power plants inside each of your cells.
I love that analogy, power plants.
Yeah, and they're constantly working to generate fuel, something called ATP. It powers literally everything you do, from thinking and moving to just keeping your organs running.
So basically, they're the reason we have energy to, get through the day.
Right. And when those mitochondria aren't functioning optimally, well, that's when we start to feel the effects: fatigue, brain fog, even more serious health problems down the line.
Okay, so we definitely want to keep those little power plants humming along smoothly. And that's where sleep comes in, right?
You got it. Sleep is like a nightly tune-up for your cellular power plants.
I love that, a nightly tune-up. So what actually happens during sleep that helps keep our mitochondria in tip-top shape?
Well, there are a few key things. One of the most important is a process called autophagy.
Autophagy. That sounds intense.
It kind of is. It's essentially your body's way of cleaning house at the cellular level, getting rid of all the damaged parts and debris that accumulate throughout the day. And there's a specific type of autophagy called mitophagy that focuses on clearing out those dysfunctional mitochondria.
So it's like taking out the trash in our cells, getting rid of all the junk that's slowing things down.
Exactly. And this cleanup process is crucial for keeping those mitochondria running efficiently.
Okay, so if we skimp on sleep, we're essentially letting those factories get clogged up with junk. Not a good picture.
No, not good at all. And it's not just about the cleanup. Sleep deprivation also cranks up something called oxidative stress. It's like, imagine running your car engine too hard for too long.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You produce more exhaust fumes. Right. Well, in this case, those exhaust fumes are like harmful free radicals that damage our cells, including our mitochondria.
So lack of sleep means more cellular junk from missed cleaning and more damage from free radicals. Double whammy.
Basically, yeah. And all of that impacts our energy levels throughout the day.
Okay, let's talk about that. How does all this, the cellular junk, the free radicals, how does it actually make us feel tired and sluggish? What's the connection there?
Well, you see, sleep deprivation really throws a wrench in our metabolism. It messes with something called insulin sensitivity, which is how well your body responds to the hormone insulin.
And insulin is what helps our cells use glucose for energy, right?
Yeah, right. But when we're sleep deprived, our cells become less sensitive to insulin, so glucose doesn't get used as efficiently. And guess what? That makes our mitochondria work harder, but we get less energy output.
So it's like our mitochondria are running on fumes. They're putting in the effort, but we're not getting the results.
Pretty much. And that leads to that constant energy crash, the feeling of being drained no matter how much coffee you drink.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. But here's a question I've always wondered about. I thought we were just stuck with the mitochondria we were born with. Is that true?
Actually, that's a common misconception. Our bodies can create brand new mitochondria through a process called mitochondrial biogenesis.
Wait, we can make new mitochondria. That's amazing. Tell me more about this biogenesis thing.
Well, during deep sleep, your body releases growth hormone. And this hormone stimulates the production of those fresh, new mitochondria. It's like a cellular renewal process.
So more sleep equals more power plants to fuel us up. That's a pretty good motivator to prioritize those Z's.
Exactly. But of course, it's not quite as simple as just clocking in 8 hours every night. The quality of your sleep matters too. And that's where the interplay of sleep and hormones comes in.
Hormones. I knew we couldn't escape those.
Yeah.
What's the connection between sleep and our hormones, especially when it comes to energy and mitochondria?
Well, you see, chronic sleep deprivation throws our hormonal balance out of whack. For example, it raises levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. And high cortisol can actually harm our mitochondria, making them less efficient.
So stress equals unhappy mitochondria. Got it. What about those hormones that actually promote sleep? Do they have any impact on our little energy factories?
Definitely. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, acts as a powerful antioxidant, actually shielding your mitochondria from those damaging free radicals we talked about earlier.
So getting enough sleep boosts melatonin, which protects the mitochondria, which keeps our energy levels up. It's like a chain reaction to positive effects.
Yeah.
But what happens when we don't get enough sleep? What are the real consequences?
Well, the downsides can be pretty significant. And we're not just talking about feeling tired. We're talking chronic fatigue, brain fog, even an increased risk of chronic diseases like heart disease and type 2 diabetes.
Wow, so ignoring sleep hygiene isn't just about feeling sluggish. It could be impacting our long-term health in a much bigger way. But let's switch gears for a second. I know people are probably wondering what they can actually do to improve their sleep.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll dive into next. But first, maybe a quick recap of what we've learned so far, just to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, great idea. Let's review. So, we know that mitochondria are these tiny but mighty power plants that fuel our cells, and they need proper care to function optimally.
And when we don't get enough sleep, well, those mitochondria don't get the chance to clean house properly, leaving them bogged down with damage and debris. Plus, we're increasing those harmful free radicals that further damage them.
Right. And to make matters worse, our metabolism gets thrown off, hormones get imbalanced, and we end up in this energy slump. And over time, that can set the stage for some pretty serious health problems.
Precisely. But the good news is, we're not doomed to a life of exhaustion and mitochondrial malfunction. By understanding the importance of sleep, we can take control of our energy levels and support our overall health.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now, I think everyone's eager to hear about the how. How do we actually get better sleep and maximize those amazing mitochondrial benefits?
I've got some great tips for that, but I think we need to take a quick break first.
Right. Sounds good. We'll be back in a flash with all the actionable strategies you need to boost your sleep and supercharge those mitochondria. All right, we're back, and I am ready to hear some actual tips for getting better sleep. Tips that go beyond just get more sleep, because we know it's not always that simple.
Yeah, it definitely takes more than just wishing for a good night's rest, right?
Exactly. So let's dive into some specifics. What are some actionable strategies we can use to optimize our sleep and really tap into those mitochondrial benefits?
Okay, let's start by talking about that cellular cleaning process again, autophagy.
Ah, yeah, that was fascinating. Taking out the cellular trash.
Right, and specifically mitophagy, the cleaning up of the mitochondria. So it turns out this process, it isn't just happening randomly throughout the night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, research suggests that mitophagy actually seems to be most active during specific times, like when we're in those deep stages of sleep.
So, our bodies have a preferred cleaning schedule for our mitochondria. That's so cool.
It is cool. And what it suggests is that, the timing of our sleep might be even more important than we realize. Like, going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time each day, even on weekends, could really make a difference.
Oh, I see. So it's like setting a consistent rhythm for our bodies, helping them get into that cleaning groove.
Exactly. It's all about aligning our sleep patterns with our internal clock. And here's another interesting thing. Some research suggests that certain nutrients might actually be able to enhance mitophagy.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, one example is spermidine. It's a compound found in some foods, like aged cheese and mushrooms, and some studies have shown it can actually help boost this cleaning process.
Wow, so eating a bit of aged cheese before bed could actually be beneficial for our cells. I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. And of course, there are other things too, like calorie restriction or intermittent fasting. Those have also been linked to increased mitophagy.
Interesting. So it's not just what we eat, but also when we eat. Giving our digestive system a break might be just as important as getting enough sleep.
Right. It all ties back to supporting our body's natural rhythms and processes.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about the cleanup crew, but let's shift gears for a bit and talk about something that I know a lot of our listeners struggle with. The whole sleep metabolism connection. How sleep or lack of sleep affects things like weight management and blood sugar control.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And we did touch on this earlier, how sleep deprivation can mess with our hormones, but maybe we can unpack that a bit more.
Please. How does it actually play out? What's the connection between sleep, hormones, and our metabolism?
Okay, so when we don't get enough sleep, our bodies start pumping out more cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And high cortisol levels, they can interfere with insulin.
Insulin, right? That's the hormone responsible for regulating our blood sugar.
Exactly. So basically, when cortisol is high, our cells aren't able to use glucose as efficiently. So what happens is our blood sugar levels start to rise.
Ah, I see. And high blood sugar, that's not a good thing.
No, not at all. It can lead to all sorts of problems. And here's the thing. It creates a vicious cycle. Elevated blood sugar can actually make it harder to sleep, to fall asleep, and stay asleep.
Oh, wow. So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, poor sleep leads to more hormonal imbalances, more insulin resistance, and the cycle just keeps going.
So even if we're eating healthy and exercising, if we're not sleeping enough, our metabolism is still going to be out of whack.
I'd say that's a pretty accurate summary. Sleep is truly foundational for metabolic health.
Okay, so knowing all that, how do we break free from this cycle? I mean, getting more sleep is obviously important, but what else can we do?
Well, there are definitely some other things we can do. Exercise is a big one.
Of course, got to get moving.
Right. When we exercise, our muscles actually become more sensitive to insulin, which helps regulate those blood sugar levels. Plus, remember how we talked about mitochondrial biogenesis?
Yeah, the creation of new mitochondria.
Well, exercise helps boost that process too. It's a win-win.
So regular workouts can help us get better sleep and improve our metabolism. Are there any specific types of exercise that are better than others?
You know, both cardio and strength training have their own benefits. Cardio can improve insulin sensitivity, while strength training builds muscle mass, which helps us burn more calories even at rest.
So good mix of both is probably ideal.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's diet.
Oh yeah, food. We can't forget about food. What should we be eating to support our metabolism and get a good night's sleep?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say focus on whole, unprocessed foods. Fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats. You know, those are the building blocks for a healthy metabolism and a well-nourished body.
So ditch the processed junk and load up on those real whole foods. Makes sense. Are there any specific nutrients we should be aiming for?
Definitely. Magnesium is a big one. It plays a key role in so many bodily functions, including blood sugar regulation and sleep.
Okay, magnesium. Where can we find that?
You can get it from foods like dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, avocados. And if you're not getting enough through diet alone, a supplement might be helpful.
Good to know. Anything else we should have on our radar?
Oh, absolutely. Fiber is another important one. It helps slow down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, which can help prevent those energy crashes that can mess with our sleep.
So more fruits, veggies, and whole grains. Got it. Are there any foods we should be avoiding?
I'd say refined carbs and sugary drinks are best to keep to a minimum. They can cause those rapid spikes in blood sugar that disrupt sleep and make us feel sluggish.
So it's not just about eating healthy, it's about choosing foods that support stable blood sugar and promote restful sleep. What about intermittent fasting? It seems like everyone's talking about that these days. Does that affect sleep and metabolism at all?
Yeah, intermittent fasting is definitely having a moment. And there's some interesting research suggesting it can improve insulin sensitivity and promote weight loss. But, you know, it's not for everyone. And it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before making any big dietary changes.
Right. Personalized approach is key. What about supplements? Are there any that can help support our metabolism?
There are a few that show promise, like chromium, which can enhance insulin sensitivity. And alpha-lipoic acid is a powerful antioxidant that can help protect our cells from damage.
Okay. So these supplements can be helpful, but they're not a magic bullet.
Right, exactly. They're like supporting actors, not the lead roles. Focus on building a solid foundation with sleep, diet, and exercise, and then you can consider supplements as an extra boost if needed.
Makes sense. It's about addressing all the pieces of the puzzle, not just looking for a quick fix. Speaking of pieces of the puzzle, there's one we haven't really talked about yet. Stress management.
Ah, yes, stress. The silent saboteur of sleep, metabolism, and pretty much everything else.
Right. We talked about how cortisol, the stress hormone, can interfere with insulin and disrupt our sleep, but what can we actually do about it? Like, how do we manage stress in a way that supports healthy sleep and metabolism?
That's a great question, and it's a big topic, but maybe we can touch on a few key strategies here. First and foremost, I think it's about identifying the sources of stress in your life. Like, what are the things that consistently trigger those feelings of overwhelming anxiety or tension?
Is it work deadlines, relationship problems, financial worries? Once we know what we're dealing with, then what?
Well, then we can start exploring healthy coping mechanisms. Things like mindfulness practices, meditation, spending time in nature, journaling, creative pursuits. You know, there are so many different tools out there that can help calm our nervous system and manage stress.
It's about finding what works for you and making it a regular part of your routine.
Exactly. And don't forget about the power of social connection. Talking to a trusted friend or family member, or even seeking support from a therapist, can make a huge difference.
It's about building a support system and remembering that we don't have to go through this alone. Okay, so stress management is about both reducing our exposure to stressors and building our resilience to cope with those inevitable challenges that life throws our way.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of creating a supportive environment, let's not forget about our sleep environment.
Ah, yes. Our sleep sanctuary.
Exactly. Even if we're doing everything else right, if our sleep environment isn't conducive to rest, well, it can really sabotage our efforts.
So let's talk about how to create a sleep-promoting sanctuary. What are some of the key things to consider?
Well, temperature is a big one. Most people sleep best in a cool room, slightly dark.
I always find that cracking open a window at night, letting in some fresh air, helps me sleep better.
That can definitely be helpful, as long as it doesn't let in too much noise or light.
Right, of course. Speaking of light, I think we all know by now how important darkness is for good sleep.
Absolutely. We talked about reducing blue light exposure in the evening, but it's just as important to make sure our bedrooms are dark enough for sleep.
Blackout curtains have been a game changer for me.
They can be amazing. And don't forget about those little electronics, the ones that emit light even when they're off.
Cover them up or banish them from the bedroom altogether. What about noise? I know that can be a big issue for some people.
For sure. If noise is a problem, consider earplugs or a white noise machine to block out those unwanted sounds. And then, of course, there's the comfort factor.
Oh yeah, a comfortable bed is essential.
Absolutely. A good mattress, pillows, and bedding can make all the difference. And don't underestimate the power of a clean and tidy bedroom. Clutter can actually be a major source of stress, making it harder to relax and fall asleep.
So true. It's about creating a space that feels peaceful and inviting, a true sanctuary where you can fully unwind and recharge. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from optimizing mitophagy to understanding the sleep metabolism connection, managing stress, and even creating a sleep-promoting environment.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in, but I feel like we've really touched on some crucial aspects of sleep and its impact on our energy and overall health.
I agree. It's been a really fascinating exploration, and I think it really highlights just how interconnected everything is. From those tiny mitochondria to our complex sleep-wake cycles, it's all part of this amazing web of life.
And the more we learn about these connections, the more empowered we become to make choices that support our health and well-being. Now, I know you said you had some exciting research to share. Can we dive into that?
Oh, absolutely. Let's shift our focus now to some of the cutting-edge research that's really pushing the boundaries of our understanding of sleep and mitochondria. There's some really fascinating stuff happening.
All right, lead the way.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be amazed. Okay, so you mentioned some really exciting new research happening in the world of sleep and mitochondria. What's caught your eye lately?
Well, one area that I think is particularly fascinating is the research on sleep and its impact on brain plasticity.
Brain plasticity, you mean like the brain's ability to change and adapt over time?
Exactly. Forming new connections and pathways as we learn new things and have new experiences. And it turns out that sleep plays a much bigger role in this than we initially thought.
Oh, wow. I usually just think of sleep as being good for, like, rest and memory.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's important for brain plasticity, too.
Yeah, it seems so. You see, during sleep, especially those deep sleep stages, our brains are busy clearing out metabolic waste. It's like a nightly detox for our brains. And this cleaning process, well, it seems to create a more favorable environment for those new neural connections to form, which is essentially the foundation of brain plasticity.
So a good night's sleep is basically setting the stage for our brains to learn and grow and adapt. That's pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. And what this suggests is that if we're consistently skimping on sleep, well, we might actually be limiting our brain's potential.
That's a sobering thought. So it's not just about feeling sharp and focused in the moment. It's about protecting our brain health in the long run.
Exactly. And there's even research suggesting a possible link between poor sleep and an increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases later in life, like Alzheimer's.
Wow, okay. So getting enough sleep is really crucial for both our current and our future brain health. But let's be honest, in today's world, it's so easy to sacrifice sleep. We're constantly bombarded with messages about hustling and productivity, and it can feel like there's just not enough time for everything.
Yeah, I hear that. It's definitely a challenge, and I think it requires a real shift in mindset. We have to start viewing sleep as an investment, not an indulgence.
An investment, I like that.
Right. It's not about being lazy or unproductive. It's about giving our bodies and minds the time they need to repair and recharge and truly function at their best.
So instead of squeezing sleep in after everything else is done, we need to prioritize it as a fundamental pillar of our health and well-being.
Exactly. And that might mean setting some boundaries around work hours, scheduling downtime into our week, creating evening routines that help us unwind and prepare for sleep. It's about making a conscious effort to create a life that supports healthy sleep habits.
It's about recognizing that we're not machines, right? We're biological beings with limits.
Exactly. And those limits, well, they're there for a reason. We might think we're being super productive by burning the midnight oil, but in reality, we're probably sacrificing our cognitive function, our creativity, our long-term health.
So it's not just about how many hours we're awake and working, it's about the quality of those hours. And that quality is directly impacted by the quantity and quality of our sleep.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's about working smarter, not just harder. And part of working smarter is recognizing that sleep is essential for optimizing our cognitive function, our energy levels, our overall well-being.
I love that. This has been such an enlightening conversation. We've gone from those tiny mitochondria to the huge impact of sleep on our brains, our health, even our society's productivity. It's been quite a journey.
It has been a journey, and I think it really underscores just how interconnected everything is. From our cells to our sleep to our environment, it's all part of this intricate web of life.
And the more we understand those connections, the more empowered we become to make choices that support our health and well-being at every level. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key message you want to leave our listeners with?
That's a good question. I think I'd say this. Sleep is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's an investment in your present and your future. And by prioritizing sleep, you're not just resting your body, you're fueling your mind, protecting your health, and truly unlocking your full potential.
That is a powerful message, and one I think we all need to hear. So to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of sleep and mitochondria. We hope you learned some valuable insights and that you're feeling inspired to make sleep a priority in your life. Until next time, sleep well and dream big.